So here we need to understand how we can, evolve as a project manager, how we can be those that person who is leading the team. Here, the leadership role starts with a project manager in typical IT company, or quite a few other domains as well. So there you are leading a team of developers, architect, designers, and you're also coordinating with the client in terms of having the responsibility of the completing things on time, with time, within budget on your shoulder. And that's how we normally work on a progressive manner here. Okay, as we seen project, we have seen the definition of project, right? We've seen the definition of project manager also. So project manager is basically responsible for a responsible person who get that unique results out within the specified time. Okay, chalo, let's move on. Last time we've started working on project scope management. Can anybody guide me what you mean by scope? Anybody? Give it a try. What is the scope?
Sir, I think scope is basically the size of a project in a
Good.
simple way.
Mm-hmm. Great. It's not just the site, it's the total work which we include in terms of whatever we need to do, whatever we need to complete the project. Projects, solution support services, whatever it may be. So whatever we are basically planning to complete, which is the inclusion of the scope. So this is the work we are going to execute to complete our project. Great, no problem. Here, the first project knowledge area was a project integration management, and now we are going to start specific criteria, very rightly said. So here we are trying to understand how do we manage the scope. So how do you manage the scope? You first start with plan scope management, and this is again an umbrella activity where we decide how do you planning to have the scope calculated, counted, planned, and so on and so forth. Second, collect requirement or validate requirement. Collect requirement in the sense you're collecting requirement from the business analyst team as a knowledge transfer. Okay. And then we have define scope. Within that requirement, we disintegrate this requirement, we decompose this requirement into a smaller chunk where we define scope. Now, scope is basically work item, activities to be done, work item to be completed, activities to be done, and the task to be completed, either or any one of these three. And you normally plan this work breakdown structure, activity breakdown structure, or task breakdown structure. Why do we have to break these requirement? Just to make sure we understand the total conciseness, total completeness of this requirement, and we addressed it completely. That's why we have WBS. This is one of the most important thing a project manager do, who understand the WBS, who creates the WBS, who decompose these requirements into activity, task, or work item with the help of team, architect, designer, developer, testers, and so on and so forth. So what all tasks you're going to execute for a given project should be included in the WBS. It's called work breakdown structure. You can create work breakdown structure in a typical Excel sheet. You can create WBS in specific tools available for WBS also. Okay, we're going to learn it from the Excel sheet. Then validate scope. You need to validate the scope, get it reviewed by the CME, SOEs, the subject matter experts, the domain experts, and so on and so forth. And after validating the scope, we normally control the scope in terms of trying to estimate how we're going to execute this thing in terms of priority and dependency. And then we normally schedule the scope in our next knowledge area. Okay, so this is total 6 process group we need to understand. We have gone through plan scope management, which is umbrella activity, where we have basically understood the inputs are project charters, quality management plan, project life cycle description, and development approach. So here we are talking about which type of quality policy, processes, standardization templates we're going to use, which type of SDLC are we going to use. SDLC is software development lifecycle, or any lifecycle description for that matter. Are we going agile way? Are we going agile scrum way, agile XP way? Are we following waterfall? Are we following ITISM, Six Sigma? And there are diamond and such project methodologies which are matured according to the domain, according to our learnings, according to our evolution. And then we normally finalize this development approach. So who's going to be the, this is basically talking about the categorization of a team, the hierarchy of team, and how we're going to set up the ground level rules in terms of who is senior, who is junior, who is going to do the configuration management, who is going to lead the testing team, and so on and so forth. Even who is going to be the scrum master, is a single scrum master throughout your project. Then you might have something like scrum master being changed after so many sprint and so on and so forth. So these things do happen. And then we have enterprise environmental factor and organizational processes to help us out in day in day out. Enterprise environmental factors are the factors affecting your project organizations from external entities to your organization. And then you have organizational process assets. These talk about the quality policy processes, standardization, templatization, whatever the organization is helping you out in terms of getting the project executed effectively, efficiently. Then the tools and techniques we talk about, the SME, the experts, the subject matter experts, domain experts, center of excellence, all these guys are helping us to execute this project successfully, efficiently, effectively. Then we do data analysis. We do alternative analysis? This is typically a kind of analysis for our decision, why you chosen this over that, and those kind of thing. We do produce artifacts. Again, this is the major what you can say responsibility on a project manager's shoulders, to have all such artifacts ready for all these project review, project audit, to make sure why you've taken one decision over the other, right? And this way we go progressively keep generating these artifact documents to present it to the reviewer and auditors. Then do we plan various meeting for project scope management, the discussions afterward. Normally the scope management or the initial scoping starts whenever we have project kickoff meeting. The meeting wherever the analysts start sharing the knowledge of a project solution support services development with the project manager after his or her appointment. So whatever we do, we sit with this business analyst, one or two, or the team, whatever it may be. We sit with, first I'll basically try to understand what all needs to be done in terms of core project objectives, subsidiary project objective. Then I'll also have my team involved slowly, steadily. Because project team doesn't start on the first day, right? So you normally get resources allocated to you gradually, one Monday, one Tuesday, three on Wednesday, and something like that. So you normally include these team member into these kickoff meetings where we try to understand these, tasks to be done, activities to be completed, and we start planning the scope then and there. That's why these meetings are important. Then we build a scope management plan, which include what type of quality management policies we are going to adopt, what type of non-conformance and conformance, what type of project cycle we're going to follow. If the sprint is of 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 1 week, 4 weeks. Again, depending upon the projects at hand, we normally discuss this thing with the experts, COEs, the PMO of the world. And then we manage the requirement. Like we update these things in terms of priority and scenario in our requirement register, where we have requirements. Wherever we start with the started discussing that requirement, and you can refer to the RTM also, requirement traceability matrix, which is a kind of table where we start. We normally have first is requirement number, requirement ID, then the requirement name, requirement description, when this requirement got discussed first, how this requirement got changed, what date, time, who is basically initiated this discussion, who approved this requirement, and how this requirement is prioritized. And there could be some additional column as well. So this table is normally referred as a requirement traceability matrix. It's a really huge table in terms of every work item, every activity, every task we do should be there in the requirement traceability matrix. But there are some organizations, far and few, who normally just have the main requirement in one document, and then the decomposed requirement, or the what you can say segregated requirement into others. So again, depending upon your organizational policies and processes, you might have two Excel sheet, one with the main requirement list, and second might be the actual WBS, the work breakdown structure, and so on and so forth. We're going to learn work breakdown structure today. So just hold on for a couple of slides. Any questions on plan scope management as of now? We have covered this in last session, but I'm just repeating you to get yourself warm. Any question for me at this moment?
No, sir.
Yes.
Please go ahead, sir.
Oh, I understand that this class have started, since, but some of us are just starting today. How do we cover the areas that have been covered over a period of time?
I couldn't understand. Could you please repeat it, sir? How
Okay, I said I understand that the classes
uh-huh.
from your slide, the
Uh-huh.
classes has been ongoing.
Uh-huh.
It has started before now, but some of us are joining the class today because we just registered. So how are we going to cover the areas that have already been covered before today?
Sure, sir. As I discussed with the madam, hers also is a first class. I believe you were there, sir, for quite a few sessions, sir, but no problem. I have shared these, recordings, right? Could you see in the WhatsApp group, sir? I'm sharing the recording of our previous sessions. Even I add those recordings in the Excel sheet, in our Google sheet, the Guru Schools Google sheet. Have you got added there, sir?
Yes, I'm on the group, but I
So
haven't
if you
seen.
review those sheets, you'll get day-wise recording there. So please have a look at it. Please do revise, because unless and until you revise, this is a really big topics, be it a project management, right? These are big topics. You can't cover in a few sessions. It takes certain times. So please revert to the previous recording. I do try to revise whenever I can, but you can't revise everything, right? It's a 1.5 or 2 hours at the max class. So we need to understand how to get ourselves cope up with the previous recording. So please do view or watch previous recording. If you have any question, you can WhatsApp me. You can WhatsApp in the group. You can WhatsApp me personally, or you can ask the question in the sessions itself. Whatever you feel right and comfortable for you. Does that answer your question, sir?
Okay, okay.
Please. Yes, we need to do some homework. We need to do some our study revising. Otherwise, it'll be difficult, sir, right? If you have any question, please feel free to ask, sir. Okay? Please don't stop yourself from asking any question. And this is how we learn. That's how I have learned. Okay? So please do keep ready with your questions so that I can answer your queries, difficulties, and everything. Okay? Let me move on.
All right.
Thank you, sir. Now, this is...
Okay,
Go ahead.
I'm going to go ahead and drop my email for
Yes,
the
please.
on the chat so that the previous I can get the previous
I'll make sure,
recorded
yeah, they are
videos.
shared with you. Very rightly said, sir. Great. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Now, great. The second process we had, gone through last time. So we'll quickly browse through this thing. It's collect requirement. Does anybody want to share what do you mean by collect requirements and how do we do it? Whoever attended previous session, please give it a try.
Sir, I guess collect requirement, as you have told us, like it's not the actually right word we're gonna use for this, like for this purpose, because we know we don't want to collect the
Perfect,
requirements, but
sir.
we need to validate all the requirements which we got from the business analysis and other team members, just to validate like what exactly the client, I mean like the owner, well, the product owner or the stakeholders were asking for, and we can validate all the requirements which we have to complete in our project. So it's more of a like a validation of requirements which we get from the client instead of
Great.
like collecting requirements.
Great. Very rightly said. It's more of a validation of a requirement, but still PMI call it collect of a requirement because what they believe is like the business analysts are also attached to the project. But in a few projects, the business analyst might be reviewed to do business analyst for another project production solution support, right? So in those scenario, this might be some kind of validate the requirement or understand the requirement, whatever understood by the business analyst people. Thank you. Thanks a lot for that. So it's really great. Now the inputs are, of course, the project charter where we define our core project objective and all the contracts, the service level agreements, the penalty clauses and everything. The project management plan we consider here are as an input, scope management plan, which we have started in our last process group, requirement management plan. This talks about mostly list of requirement, the RTMs, Stakeholder engagement plan. Now this is new. What do you mean by stakeholder engagement plan? We also build a register of stakeholder, and we're going to learn this stakeholder engagement plan in project stakeholder management knowledge area. What we do, we list the stakeholder, we list the number of persons which we're going to discuss about this project, specifically from client side, who has the authority to sanction, approve, or change the priorities, and so on and so forth. So here we normally assign we normally build a list of stakeholder with their priorities, with their authorities, with their different roles they are playing in our project. And these stakeholders, we normally also include something like best time to call, best time to meet, either online meet, Google Meet, personal meet, garden meet, wine and dine meet, and so on and so forth. We also normally try to have something like birthdays, anniversaries, the pet names, and so on and so forth, just to make sure if the stakeholder is very critical to us, we need to make sure we don't do anything wrong to either baffle him or disturb him in any way, because we want our projects to be executed in an unobstructive way. And that's how this stakeholder engagement is quite crucial to us for a given project. And we're going to learn each and everything we do in stakeholder management knowledge area. But for the scope, we have started understanding stakeholder engagement, because many of the stakeholder initiated a discussion called this requirement, that requirement. So we understand, or we relate requirement with the stakeholder. Then other project documents are assumption log. Whatever you assume in the simplest possible scenario, everybody in the project organization, project team will come at right time and will leave at right time throughout the project. Does it happen in practical? We've worked in quite a few industries, right? Even at our house, there are certain challenges, like we have various obstacles, like even environmental obstacles, snowstorm, heavy rain, and the pandemics like corona and all those things. So that's why all these things which we assume in terms of life will go smooth normally goes for a toss every now and then. Are you with me? Could you understand what I'm trying to say here?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So that's why we need to address all such eventuality, all such challenges in a way, whatever we normally call it as a risk, a list of risk, whatever we might, face in a near future. So we normally create assumption, we normally create a risk register. We're going to learn risk register quite in depth in terms of project risk management knowledge area. And risk management knowledge area is one of the knowledge area where interviewers ask maximum question. They should ask in the scope management, but normally there are very few questions from the scope management knowledge area in the interviews. Okay, let's try to okay, then we have lessons learned register in terms of the knowledge base, knowledge archival have created by your organizations for such type of projects. You normally refer to them in terms of, I want to execute a project of attendance management solution. So what all similar projects have you done? Have you installed biometric iris scanners at some point of time? If yes, please go through those projects. What are the tasks they've created, how they've learned through difficult time, which type of biometrics they have used, and so on and so forth. So this is all a kind of input via lessons learned register. Then we have stakeholder register, same thing as we just discussed. Then we have a business case. This is what we call core objective, which is included in project charter. Here we normally try to elaborate core objective with other projects, other additional tasks we have committed to the client. So what are those? Like whenever you are doing attendance management system, you might have to do the leave management system or the payroll processing and so on and so forth, because these are subsidiary tasks to that core objective. But have you have to do the parking management as well? Sometime yes, sometime no. Again, these type of options are mentioned in the business case in terms of total solutions to be prepared, total solution, whatever we need to working out for a given client, for a given instance. And of course, this agreement where there are any penalty clause or service level agreement where we need to complete certain tasks, certain modules within or before such certain date. Otherwise, you might pay some penalty and so on and so forth. So this way, we need to consider the agreement for such delays, or mark those tasks critical, so that we will consider completing those tasks before time. And of course, we have EEFs and OPS to help us out. The tools and techniques, SMEs, COE, different type of data gathering mechanism where you can call brainstorming, sitting together with the team members or the stakeholders and get the things finalized one by one. Interviews, in case you haven't got all the details, you might sit with a single person and discuss with him, and these are what they call interviews. Then you have focus group. You might get validated these requirements collected with the subject matter expert, domain expert, or center of excellence within your organization. If the stakeholders are away, like in living in different continent, different time zone, you might create some web pages or questionnaire and surveys on Google or something like that, send them a link and ask them to fill by, let's say, within so many hours. And then you got all the details with you, with all documentation, all nook and corners are addressed in terms of that requirement. Then we have benchmarking also. Just try to understand what all completed, where we stand in terms of the total scope management. Again, this is like, you couldn't complete scope totally in a given day. There are certain, benchmarking, calibration happens whenever you go in depth with the decision. So there are some scope which are always evolving throughout your project solution support services. It was a kind of great thought process prior to 1950s or 1960s, where they used to call, we need to get the requirement in its completeness first, then only you start project, then you start designing and all those things. And that's what we used to call waterfall. But now we have scrapped that thing. The requirements are ongoing, the business are changing, even the scope gets evolved over the time. So when you start with attendance management solution, and some good old day, after let's say 3 months of the project, the VP of HR comes to you and say, hey boss, you are good, we are doing really good, could we do the parking management also? This is the addition of a project, and that's good for project manager because he's getting promoted from a project manager. He'll be promoted to program manager when he start managing 2 projects. So you might have 3-4 resources additionally at your disposal to address that parking management project as well. And this is how we normally progress. So all these benchmarking, all these accepting evolutionary work, accepting additional work is part and parcel of project management duties. There's nobody who will guide you in terms of either product owner, scrum master, or the development team to go ahead with this additional scope. Okay, but only project management manager can decide if we can't do in a given date, even expectation of a client. And that's how project manager is really important duty in terms of getting the knowledge transfer to his team, completing the project on a time. Then various document analysis we do, and these are normally called as client supplied material. So your client is normally supplied sketches drawn by hand, it supplies some sort of a document in terms of which biometric they have tried, they want to use, and so on and so forth as well. Again, these can be more towards the financials of the projects also, because some of the clients they don't want to spend really great amount of dollar to start with. They will start slow, then they will pile up in terms of they will increase the volume of the task to be done day by day. So you have to increase your team accordingly, and then you normally get the project done in so much time. And this is how we normally call it data analysis or document analysis based on all such communication. So communication analysis based on email is also document or artifact. Any document you create, like minutes of meeting, discussion minutes, all these are basically the documents we have collected for a given project solution support development. The decision making, we do decision making by voting, by multi-criteria decision analysis, and we do create Excel sheet as an artifact to prove that we have done decision analysis process, we have followed the decision analysis process. Okay, and this is how we create this document and archive it on our cloud. Then we have data representation, affinity diagram, and mind mapping. We've learned mind mapping in our business analyst workshop. Affinity diagram are typical, either activity diagram or a flow chart, where you normally have how this workflow has been planned, how the workflow has been decided in terms of who is going to generate, who is going to have analyze the attendance in terms of how many employees are not present today, how many employees have taken leave, how many employees are absent, means we don't know what happened, and so on and so forth. So all these type of data representation are done with either mind mapping or affinity diagram. Then the interpersonal skill, project management institute and all the top management institute expect the project manager to have are nominal group technique. Nominal group technique is basically how to lead the group. There are some stick and carrot type of strategies. There are some good cop, bad cop type of strategies. How do you tackle the team in terms of you are the leader and you are guiding their complete careers with you? So how do you do that? And that's how we have something like nominal group techniques. And then observation and conversation. You observe these resources. You work with them day in day out. If there are certain personal career aspirations, you try to overlap that career aspiration with the project goal, and you might say to him or her saying, hey, if you've done this within this time, we might look at your career aspirations and I'll make sure management supports you wholeheartedly. We do facilitate with all these team members, stakeholder, if they have any challenges. Let's say my team member having problem with the laptop, the server access, his desk phone or something like that. We might go ahead and address those with the vendor, address those with the relevant department to get that thing sorted. So that's why facilitation is also an important part and parcel of project management duty. Then we have a context diagram. All these artifacts we generate, they have certain context in terms of reference to a certain task, and we need to categorize all these documents and upload it to the cloud to make sure all those reviewer all those auditors can watch them at whatever time they need. And that's why we normally have this cloud shared space for all such context in terms of the document context. And you can draw a kind of diagram in terms of even project management knowledge area and respective artifacts. And one artifact can refer a couple of process group as well. So it's kind of one to many or one to one or many to one as well. So depending upon these document artifact related to different process group, we do create context diagram, so that what all scope is covered in what all diagram. Was it a brainstorming session? Was it a questionnaire and survey? And I'll give some relevant link, like the links we given the for the previous recording, then interview questions, then various helping videos in our Excel, in our Google sheet, right? And this is what we call knowledge archival done by the GuruSchools. Again, now prototypes. Prototypes are kind of a trial we do to understand what it at stake for all critical project. It can be a mission critical, it can be a cost critical, it can be a time critical project, solution support services. We try to do some prototyping or proof of concept type of thing. Whenever you are developing something very costly, let's talk about Mars Land Rover, let's talk about a humanoid robot or a driverless car. All these things have started with the prototyping, because we don't know what it takes to get it done. So we try with normally just one come on, give me a minute. Yeah, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Now, yeah, now I can hear you.
I think there was some disturbance, no problem. So whatever we are talking about in terms of having these, sorry. Yeah, prototype are basically being created, or we normally create prototype where there are mission critical project. So whenever you are doing something like driverless car, right? It's not a normal day-to-day thing. You do it every now and then, right? Or anybody might have not done that thing. So what we do, we normally create a prototype. Whatever complex thing you're going to do, you normally create a prototype whenever you can, which gives you a clear idea of how it should be done, how effectively or efficiently we can get it done, what are the best way to do it. At least you know what to do exactly, right? And so on and so forth. So all these new invention, like the light bulb of Edison, he generated around 1,000+ prototype, but only one got right, right? He tried with different gas, different metal element which are burned in that gas, and then he got at the end of so many years, like, okay, we have a tungsten, as a metal which glows whenever you pass electric current to inert gases, and that's how he got invented that light bulb. Now we have LED light bulbs where we don't have those gas or those heavy metals. Now here we have electronic components emitting light whenever we supply current to them. Does that make sense to you? What are prototype or proof of concept? Have you understood? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sure, no problem. So that's all about prototype and this thing. Again, prototype is a kind of concept. You can go to Google and search for what is prototype, and you can prepare your own answer. Prototype, what is prototype? Has been asked in I think 5 or 6 interviews till today, within last 2.5 years. So please do keep ready with this question. These are not frequently asked questions, but these are very crucial because this means that you are going to work for a critical project, really good long project. So these are really, you can say a kind of rare opportunities or the best opportunity, and they pay you well also. Where you do prototype, because either they are cost critical, mission critical projects, solution support services. So getting attached to such services are really great, because then you'll be a critical resources for the organizations. Again, project managers are the resources who normally don't let it go. They never kick out project manager, because project managers are very critical resources to the organizations from the cost point of view, from the previous knowledge archive from point of view, from the actual work they did in terms of knowledge of the scope, knowledge of how they have planned is very crucial for every organization. So that's why if you get a job on project manager, please understand that you'll be never kicked out, and that's the fact in terms of ground. If you're a business analyst, if they really don't find a good what I can say applicability, they might ask you to leave or something like that. Project manager is a really critical resources. Most probably after CEO, CTO, and the CXO of the world, project managers are the most critical resources for any given organizations. And whoever is basically working with something like prototype, working with all these initial project understanding or knowledge and archival in depth, they are the most critical. The outputs are requirement documentation and requirement traceability matrix. Requirement documentation talk about all the requirements you've collected, decomposed, build a WBS, and the similar updation in requirement list and traceability matrix. Okay, does anybody have any questions on collect requirement? We have just revised, and which basically should make you comfortable in terms of how you are understanding these things, and these are very crucial for our next sessions, next understanding. So that's why I want to make sure you've understood this thing in terms of collect requirement or validate requirement. The name doesn't matter, but actual what work we do. Okay, and that's how we're going to closely understand in a progressive manner. Okay, so does anybody have any question for me at this moment? I can help you with any confusion, contradiction of your thought process. Please reply yes or no. You can hear me, right? Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Everything okay?
Yes, sir.
No problem. Thank you. Let me move on. So I think you understood whatever we discussed. If you have any question, please do ask. Okay, and please don't stop discussing anything. I mean, your personal experience also, because this is the management we are learning, right? There's no right or wrong, but yes, we need to understand the basic gist of it, basic crux of it, and then you can explain it in your words, your own words. Okay, let me move on. Now define scope. Now here we are actually defining the scope. Here we are finalizing the list of requirement, where we are saying these things are to be done in terms of with the attendance management project. Should we include leave management? Yes. Should we include payroll management? Definitely yes. Should we include parking management? No. Our client want, but we can do it afterwards, and something like that. Again, depending upon the scope, and now we are going into the schedule slowly, where we'll attach some dates to the scope. So this has to be done first, this has to be done second, third, and so on so forth. Okay, now steadily we are going into the schedule. We start the input to define scope processes are project charter, Project management plan, specifically the scope management plan, where we analyzed what to do, what in totality we have to do. Then we have project documents like assumption logs, list of requirement or requirement register, and the risk register. For every assumption you make, you have to create a risk, whatever you assume. Like Ravindra Pandey's voice will be really good. There will be no, obstruction, no challenges on the Zoom today. But does that happen? With a given time, with a given overall progressive thought process, we still have certain challenges. Like sometime internet doesn't work, sometimes Zoom takes almost 2 minutes to get logged in. Believe me, even today it took a longer time to log in. I don't know why this happens sometimes, but these are the assumptions. I do assume, like, I'll get login in a minute, but normally today it took a bit longer time. This happens and we all understand. But for such assumptions, we normally include a risk in our risk register. Okay, so that's why we have assumption log and a risk where we can mitigate the risk. If you can't, then there should be some damage, right? We might lose a couple of minutes due to some internet or Zoom issue, and these things do happen. But these are really negligible scenarios which we can just ignore. Okay, yes, sir, please go ahead.
So I just have a small question. Like, since we start learning step by step of the project management knowledge areas, so when we start working on defining scope, this will be the first ever risk register which we will create to start working on the project, right? At this step, while we are defining scope, this will be the first ever risk register.
Right.
Am I correct?
Yeah, let me, I know the bigger question you have in mind. When you start actually working, right, how do you create the project plan? Okay, to go to a level of understanding project plan, we need to understand the basic task work item, the W-based planning. Then we will understand how we can plan schedule and cost. With these three, you normally land to a what I can say, you have enough knowledge to start creating project plan. Because project plan is the most it's a bible for project manager. So whatever you do as a project manager is referred there. Even project managers day-to-day duty, what Ravindra will do, what Shailesh will do, what Josna will do, all these things will be included there in your project plan. To reach to a project plan, we need to understand first scope in detail. That's what we are doing right now. Scope means requirement, decomposed into task, activity, work item. Then we have a schedule. When you want to do the scope, when you want to execute a particular task, activity, work item, and then after applying schedule, who is going to do that? Because if Ravindra is senior, he might get it done in 3 days. If Josna is junior, she might take, let's say, 5 days. Now, depending upon the resource we allocated, our plan do change. And we're going to discuss in depth. But here, we are just getting started in terms of understanding scope, understanding requirement, how to make sure requirement is concise, completes in its nature. And then, after doing all this validation of a scope, we'll move to an area where we'll try to attach schedule to it. Now, in defining scope, you're trying to attach schedule. Like if there are any planning, any penalty clauses, any assumption logs which we've said it's a deterrent to your scope, or anything which you are not concrete or anything you are not confident about, you might check with the client, check with the stakeholder, saying, hey stakeholder, you put up this point from the list of requirement, hey, you put up this point on such and such meeting, but I really couldn't understand these things, or I'm confused about this. Could you please throw some light on that? And he or she will definitely help you. This is how you normally define scope. You validate scope. After your scope is being validated, and again, scope validation is not requirement complete because we are working in an agile or flexible development. So scope keep coming to you, and that's how normally we get promoted organically within your project itself. That's the beauty of it as of modern project management thought processes. In good old days, they used to wait for requirements get completed, and still if there are any changes, they have to run the complete project again, which is a really mammoth thing, or the client has to wait for any changes, adjust together. But nowadays everything is modern, everything is quick and flexible. That's why this is a process we adopt in terms of how we can accommodate the change in requirements. That's a part and parcel of our project management. That's what we are going to learn now, how to define scope. Does that answer your question, sir? I know it's a long answer, but yes, we need to understand this thing. And whenever we start building in terms of project plan, this will be a really helpful for you. We're going to start building a project plan as a basic Excel sheet. And then we're going to work on with the Microsoft project and Jira. These are the Microsoft project is used by more than 80% of the project managers in throughout the world. Jira is used by another 7-8%. So my Microsoft project is one of the most matured project management tool we have, and one of the most oldest, frankly speaking, and respected by good number of management institutes. So if you go to even Carnegie Mellon, Harvard, and any bigger management institute, they normally have Microsoft project as a teaching tool for a management. So Microsoft project is one of the most prominent tool which we're going to learn to create our plan. Does that answer your question, sir? Or at least you got an idea what it takes to build this plan, or start working on a hands-on. Does that make sense, sir? Said, sir?
Yes, sir. I was just like asking us more like one thing more like we keep learning about the risk register from the beginning of this session, right? Like I mean like from
Right.
the beginning of this training.
Uh-huh.
So on the like but on the official system, like whenever like we start like uploading our documents and like project charter and everything, and
Mhm.
start working on the Microsoft project, for example, so we
Uh-huh.
will build a risk register. That's what I know. But do we have different risk registers for different sprint, or we just have like one risk register in which we will gonna update all the risks regarding to any other matter, like about the scope, about the team, about the any environmental problems? We're gonna list all the risks in the same register, right?
Yes, all the
Or
register
we
in
have
one
like
register
different
only.
different yeah.
Yeah, just one register,
Okay.
and which is normally get added every now and then. Get okay. There are risk getting deactivated or risk retired, as they normally call in the management language. What do you mean by risk retired? That risk has been not materialized, and we know it will not materialize in future. So that risk is being retired. It normally marked as a gray on your Excel sheet or something like that, with a gray background. Okay, we're going to work on that. We're going to create a risk register as well. Okay, but yes, risk register is important from interviewing perspective, but the project management plan is the most crucial document. As a project manager, you lead the team with that project plan, and you can show the project plan to your team. You say, hey Ravindra, I'm a project manager, I need to do these tasks today. You might need to stay on stay working a bit late today, if that what it's take, but yeah, we need to complete these tasks today because there are such and such penalty clauses and so on. So this is how you normally address scope to a given resources, and plan these things. So what we have today, so this is what we normally discuss in the daily scrum meet. In the meeting, what we normally have with everybody on the this meet called scrum meet or daily stand-up meet, which is maximum of 15 minutes, where we discuss, are there any problem yesterday, so what we have to create, develop, support today, taste or anything. Then whatever we released yesterday, because whenever you complete your work, you normally give it to the client, be it a software delivery, you normally push it or upload it to their server, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this is how you normally keep updating this day by day. I'm sorry, I'm trying to, I think, steer away from, concentrating on a risk register as a whole. Risk register is very important document. But if you look at the overall project management, day to day or minute by minute activities, project plan gives you a quite good amount of detail. Even risk register is referred in good number of project plans as well. And we will basically learn it. Don't worry. Okay. So just hold on for this. These are all big things which you're going to learn, and there are some what you can say, there are some progressive learnings involved here. Are there any small projects we can assist you with to get? Yeah, yes, definitely, man. We're going to do this. We know. Okay, yeah. We normally discuss this attendance management project, right? Where we say, me working as a project manager for Guru School, and I am building a project plan for State Farm, which is a kind of insurance company. They headquarter in Urbana, Champaign, and we normally create, or me as a project manager with my 15 member team is working on that attendance management solution. So what is attendance management solution? We normally have this biometric fitted on the door of every office of State Farm. They have offices in 6 different countries. Then every employee, when it joins, starts the day, he or she put her finger or his finger on that biometric and get the attendance register. Previously, they used to have these manual attendance where they used to show a photo ID proof to a supervisor and sign the register. But there were lots of proxies, and even the supervisor, if he's talking on phone or something, then anybody and everybody can do a proxy of others' attendance as well. So these things used to happen. That's why we're going to eradicate all those challenges and have a centralized system, around the clock system, automated system for attendance management. So this type of project plan we are going to go ahead with, because we need to understand the project activities, right? We need to understand the scope. This is the overall scope I am talking about. We have basically created the HLD for this project also as a workshop. We are going to create the project plan for this project also. Does that answer your question, Shruti ma'am?
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Most welcome. Okay, so yes, so project documents. Then of course we have EEFs and OPS. The tools and techniques are, of course, the COEs and SMEs. We take a help of a domain expert, subject matter expert to let us build these scope and build these work item, activity list and all those things from the requirement to make sure what exactly we need to do. Then we normally try to understand when we need to do it, and then we understand who is going to do it. And this is how we basically start building that scope in a detailed step-by-step way. If there are any alternative, like should we go with biometric, should we have iris scanners, and so on and so forth, we do these things. Now these alternative analysis can be something like, even State Farm have offices in Canada, in the colder places, where the biometric doesn't work very effectively. Sometimes if there are 10-15 employees got registered, the next employee might get an error because our fingers have some oil and it's in very less quantity, but it basically clogs the camera of your fingerprint sensor. So in such area, we might use something called iris scanner. The eye gets scanned. You might have seen in good number of movies, or you might have used that thing. So the eye gets scanned with this iris scanner, where the iris scanner reports the attendance of a particular person to the server, and server uploads the data to the centralized cloud server, where everybody and anybody track the employee assistant, whatever HR executive or senior HR persons have to do the leave management and all those things, he or she can do like that. And then multi-criteria based decision analysis, where we normally choose the best possible criteria according to the cost, according to the timeline, according to the efficiencies, and so on and so forth. And of course, as a project manager, we have to have an interpersonal and team skill facilitation to lead the team to the success. Try to work with them in case of their personal challenges. Try to work with them in they have absurd personal career aspirations, and these things do happen in a real project also, and so on and so forth. So we need to work with them, and we're going to see some a good example during our project communication management, where we normally try to address those influence area we studied earlier, like how do you communicate with your team, how much autocratic you should be, how much liberal you should be. Same thing with stakeholder, how much liberal you should be, what type of personality you can get in normally corporate America or Canada, and so on and so forth. And then we do the product analysis also, and they specifically call it product analysis because whenever you are trying to understand a scope of a product, what needs to be done for a product, there is a big phase called market study. What do you mean by market study? Let's say if I building these let's say a pen, I'm manufacturing pen. Now depending upon our market, what type of pen is favorable? Normally black pens are the most favored. Blue pen are the most favored. Then we have a black, then we have a red. Of course, there are quite a few rare requirement of a orange pen or purple pen and so on and so forth. But whenever I start pen manufacturing, I normally will start with blue pen. I'm talking about the color of the ink rather than the covering. The covering can be red, steel, metallic, and blah blah thing, depending upon the aesthetic, which is normally the most appealing part of the pen. I need to make sure I need to understand what type of pen do my user like in a given region. If I'm trying to put my product to the, let's say, St. Louis as an area, I need to understand what type of user are going to use this thing. Is it a cheap pen, costly pen? And then depending upon that product analysis or market analysis, I normally build my product, I normally tweak my product. Now why it's included in the scope? Because whenever you're trying to define a product, whenever you try to understand what needs to be done to basically build this product, you have to understand the ground rule. You need to make sure whatever you are defining, whatever you are designing, fit to the needs of the people, fit to the needs of your user. Even if you are developing something very special to a very few users, let's say you are building a security product for a banks. Given in the St. Louis area, there are hardly few banks. Means there is corporate headquarters of Commerce Bank. There used to have a corporate headquarters of Commerce Bank, and then I think Blue Cards. That's the, I think, older company. Now it's closed down, bankruptcy, and all those things. It used to be kind of credit card company in headquartered in St. Louis. But still, if you are trying to give a product to far and few, then the product analysis also guides you to create the product as per those users, as per those consumers. And this is what the product analysis means in depth. As a product, yes, it's very crucial. As a project, normally the business analyst team have been discussing with the client, stakeholder, what you want, how you want, and so on and so forth. So overall solution support analysis is done by the business analyst, but specifically product analysis, where we don't have analysts, but we have market experts, where we have specified product analyzers. And that's why they have mentioned product analysis specifically in defined scope. Does that make sense? Anybody have any questions on these?
No, sir.
Sure. Thank you. Let's go ahead. Now, talk about the outputs now. In a defined code processes, that outputs are project scope statement where we have qualified requirements. What do you mean by qualified requirement? Out of 2000 requirements, we can do 1856. So, okay. So, these are now my project scope, solution scope, product scope, or services scope. And here I'm going to say we're going to develop this 1856 requirement out of 2000 and so on and so forth. Now, these are what we normally put it for the approval to the client, because client is paying for this project, right? So we need to make sure out of these out of 2000, 1856 are the requirement which will apply. Either the requirements have been scrapped or retired due to certain scenario, because it's take too long to build that facility. It might be not so required right now, it might be too costly, it might be barred by the legal enactment, and so on and so forth. So here we have basically reduced the scope up to a certain extent to make sure we have only feasible scope or can do type of scope, and normally which we put it to the client saying, okay, this is what I found. Now, could you please sanction on this? Could you please put your signature so that we know this is the scope which we need to evolve now from here forth in a progressive manner. So once you define the scope, you know what to be done in totality for a given project, product, solution, support, services. Now we have the exact documents ready for this project. Now again, this is the scope which we have finalized on a given day. It can be changed, it can be added, updated, and then again we define that scope in a progressive manner. So even define scope is a repetitive activity. Then we have the project documents updated are assumption logs. Assumption in the sense we assume these scope to be get completed by this day, and we have to start understanding who is going to work on this. You have specific skills for that, and so on and so forth. So for every assumption, we might create a risk register. Okay, then we have a requirement documentation, which is kind of in a concrete shape now, because we have defined the scope. We have understood what is the core scope and what are the other things needs to be done to get this project complete. And then we have a requirement traceability matrix, which is again, we just discussed a table where we have list of requirement. We have, the reference to the requirement first table, by whom, action item, and the requirement needs to be completed by so and so day. So this is a total traceability of a given requirement. Matrix normally refers to a table. So normally an Excel sheet you have as a RTM. And then we have stakeholder register, where we also mention which requirement is initiated by which stakeholder, who is going to approve it, who is going to sanction it. And all these stakeholder, we normally build a register in terms of whenever I got a, I got confusion, I might call the stakeholder and I might check with this guy. Is the requirement, this is what do you mean by this requirement or not? What are other things which I might need to add to this requirement, and so on and so forth. So these are all kind of defining a scope in its completeness, in its conciseness. Now this is a continuous activity. This is not just a ribbon cutting ceremony, because even in our life we keep defining our scope, and that's how we evolve, that's how we get better day by day. Okay, any question on define scope as of now?
No, sir.
Good, thank you. The next process group is create WBS. This is one of the most important thing we do as a project manager. Here we are planning for work, activity or phase or a module breakdown structure, where we'll understand what are the actual activities we're going to do, and these are activity to be managed for a given day. So normally all these requirements are decomposed, are basically broken down to a level of any resources could be able to do that in 6 hours. Now why 6 hours? Normally all these management institutes believe the human normally can work for 6 hours, and other 2 hours are for the discussions, meeting, and the other administrative tasks. But again, there are many organizations in North America and Canada who normally plan for 7 hours of work or 8 hours of work as well. So again, depending upon the organizations you're working with, this thing might change in terms of the number of hours planned per day. We do understand from the management how they want to plan it. Again, according to the best practices of management, it's a 6 hours normally we plan. But again, this might change as in the organization you are working with, or how they have adopted to this management principle. Now here we are trying to the end, going to the nth level to decompose that requirement in terms of what exactly we need to build, and when we need to build, and who is going to build it slowly, steadily. Here we just trying to address the what, means what needs to be built. So the inputs are project management plan, specifically scope management plan. The documents are project scope statement. This talks about the project statement, or the statements where resource management, attendance management enhancement system or enhancement solution, whatever you want to call it. This is what I call project scope statement, which basically is the main headline of our project, title of our project, and this gives you a detailed idea of what you're going to build in terms of the core objective, be it a product, solution, support, services. What are you doing is normally mentioned in the scope statement. They are not calling it title, they call it statement because it's a lengthy title basically. Then requirement documentation, whatever requirement list you created, you have to take it as an input to the create WBS area. Then we have enterprise environmental factor and organizational process assets to help us out. I'll not go to explain this thing again. I believe everybody knows enterprise environmental factors and OPA, EEFs and OPAs. Okay. Now the tools here are just 2 tools: COE, SME or subject matter experts help, and decomposition. So decomposition is a process what we normally do whenever we create WBS, and we're going to learn how as well. Then we have a scope baseline. Scope baseline talks about all the tasks to be decomposed at what level. Normally WBS goes up to 3 level or a 4 level at the max, but there are organizations who carry it till the 6th level or something like that. Again, the 6th or 7th level as well. Again, depending upon the project at hand, the length and breadth of a project. Normally the task, activities or work items need to be decomposed till 6 hours. So the maximum hours which we might consume for a given task is 6 hours. and then you have another 6 hours. If there's any exceptions, then of course we'll have this task given to a single resource, because if that task is to be completed and it's the estimation which is more than 6 hours, so that resource has to continue that task tomorrow as well. Normally, for a micromanagement, for a ground level management, we don't plan like that. So whatever task we include, work item we include, we decompose it to a level of 6 hours, 8 hours, 6 hours or 8 hours at the max. Okay, so that's what we talk about scope baseline. Then we have project document update. So we have assumption logs and we have requirement document. What do you mean by assumption log? The estimation is itself is an assumption process. So what you do, whatever you estimate, like the fixing of 6 biometric at the 6th store in the State Farm St. Louis office. This was my main task. Now I have broken it down to Ravindra with 4 others traveling from our office to the St. Louis office and installing those biometric on their door. And this is going to take 3 days. How do you come to the 3 days? Because you broke down this task further. First task can be traveling from our office location to that office location. It might take 1 or 2 hours. Then making sure you start working in parallel, so that one of the technician might install the or paste the biometric on the just adjacent to the door and set up the mechanical mechanism, like once your attendance is approved, then only you can enter to the door and blah 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 things. Then whenever somebody put an attendance, the system or the product will send couple of data points, like fingerprint of Ravindra, he have placed it with at such and such time, and this is the first entry of the day, and so on and so forth. So whenever these things go, these data points go to the local computer, it basically analyzed and create a archival or collect these data points and upload it to the main server, where he might have segregated these data points or broken down these data points to a level where we have Ravindra Pandey attendance mark as of today at so and so time, so and so date, so and so day, and these things goes to the centralized server on the cloud, so that everybody and anybody throughout the world can analyze that data afterwards. Now these type of what you can say activity to be broken down, who is going to do what, who is going to make sure, who is going to also test this thing, is the data entities are being transferred from the biometric to the local server, local system, that system should be 24/7 on, and so on and so forth. Nowadays there are some biometric machines where you include SIM card and you configure the cloud server as well. So only need to power it by some batteries or something like that, and then this system itself upload these data points to the cloud server via a Wi-Fi. The access is stored in that biometric itself. So these are like kind of advanced tools which we have got, and I've just seen this thing in last month. So these are new biometrics, new ID scanners systems we are talking about. Now depending upon these things, you might get the implementation done in few hours than few days, but normally we need to understand how much time it takes, how much hours it takes to complete that task, and so on and so forth. So that's how we're going to create a WBS. Now let me play you a small video where we'll try to understand how do you create this WBS. We are trying to understanding WBS or work breakdown structure here, right? Forget about the rant, but more or less here we are talking about trying to get the activities or a work item broken down to a level where the last activity also guides us for the estimation, and that's a kind of validity we are looking for in a work breakdown structure. Again, as a homework, please try to build a work breakdown structure of making tea or making coffee. Okay, I closely work with a UML master called Grady Butch. Now his favorite activity for use case diagram depiction was making a tea or making a coffee in early morning, where how effectively you plan your first task. That's what the intention, right? So here please take it as a homework, try to build a WBS for making tea or coffee, whatever you do. Okay, So let me tell you how we can do this thing in a Microsoft Word in terms of work breakdown structure, building with a Microsoft Word, which is the simplest. You can use pen and paper also. Okay. Now here I'll change the layout to landscape. I'll reduce this thing. Come on. Now this is page I'm talking about, right? Now I'll say insert shapes. Let's say this blunt rectangle where I put it this thing. My project is making tea or coffee, whatever. Oh, my spelling of coffee is also wrong. Okay, no problem. So, and then what I do, I add another, now this is my 0th level of work breakdown. Now I'll go and I'll insert another shapes like, here, and then I'll copy, make, 4 distinct, what you can say, first level task. Okay. Now this task can be, let's say making tea. So, collect, come on, collect pan, then we have collect water, make it to boil, add tea, coffee, and masala, etc. Whatever you want to add. Again, you boil it for 4-5 seconds. So I might add another task of completing tea or something like that. Or in collect pan, I need to make sure if the pan is of sufficient size. If I'm making a tea for me, I might select a smaller pan. If I'm making tea for my family, my better half, my kids, I might have a bigger pan. Same thing, collect water. How much water should I collect? Should I collect 1 cup of water, half cup of water? There are persons who normally have a definite way of making tea. For me, I just collect approximate water. Even the boiling of a tea or boiling of that water depends on how much I want my tea to be stronger. The more stronger, I might boil after adding the tea or coffee powder as well. Now, depending upon your processes, please make this WBS. Now, how to connect this task? I'll go to insert, I'll go to the shape, and I'll use this call out or different type of arrow. Be use your artistic nature and try to use the arrow you want. I can do this thing like this. Oh, come on. I'll start from here and it should extend it to here. Please try do these things, means and I can just copy this thing. 4, right? Yes. And I'll basically circulate it the way I want. This one. I can change the color also. So if you right click, format shape, the fill, this is a blue fill. I can have a gradient fill, I can have a color fill. Whatever you want to have, please do try. And we're going to use these tools quite often in our day-to-day life as well. Believe me, if you know how to create WBS for a given day or to-do list and break it down to a level where you can understand the ask to be consumed by the task and all, it's really a great way to start your day, or it will be a really great way to start your planning of that day, right? Are you with me? Yes. Anybody have any question? Somebody was saying something. Pardon me. Yeah, somebody was asking questions. You can see my word, right? Where I'm trying to create
Yes.
a first level WBS and all those things. I can make it straight as well, but let it be inclined and let me give you another color. So let's have this color. Yeah, it's the same color I'm giving. So let me give you green color. I can give this color, right click, format shape, and give the color whatever I like. So let's give him orange color. Oh my, that's really colorful. Okay, I believe you got the idea what I'm trying to do here, right? And then of course you can save this file, you can add whatever you want to add. If you want to add more text, like a blank text, so insert in the shape, there is something called this text box. Okay, text box, I can type whatever I want. This is the ACTIBITY BREAK down STRECTURE. So I'm bad at spelling. So yes, structure, right? And I can basically reduce it. I can increase the font size the way I want. I can make it title. This is 11, so I'll take it to 15. Okay, I make it bold, italics, whatever I want, and I'll mark it as a here. Here, the basic background is white, so I can have no fill. So come on. Okay, that's for the characters. I want to go to the fill. Okay, this is a text fill, so text fill should be black. Now I want to go with the actual fill, so right click, format shape, and here actual fill, so no fill. Now even if you move it on this image, it still basically is a transparent, the background is transparent, the characters are opaque. So this way you can oh man, what the heck is that? I'm not. So here you can build something like this. Even you can what you can say, remove the borders as well. Okay, forget, I don't want accessibility. Fill line. Line is my border. If I say no line, see, there's no line. Now this is just the title. Okay, please try to do your homework in a way where we could understand, or where I'll make sure you understand the WBS concept on its whole. Okay, because this is the best, and you can do it with a pen and paper. You don't have to use Word or any other tool. There are good number of tools available for WBS also. Okay, does that make sense? Anybody having question on WBS creation? This is really bad diagram. So
Yes, sir. I have a question.
go ahead, man.
Yeah. So geography here, sir. So is the actual artifact in form of diagram?
No, yes, normally it's a diagrammatic tool. WBS is very rightly said. Sorry,
Okay. Okay. And then the second question I have is, so I know it is a PM deliverable, but do they work with dev team or anybody else? Because
Yes,
sometimes
ma'am.
what if the back
Great
end,
questions. Yeah, great
what?
question.
Okay.
Now, project manager is not an architect or a designer. So whatever you are planning as a work, right? You need to sit with this architect and designer. Specifically, when you're building a car, right? How will be the WBS look like?
Sir.
Making a car is my, zeroth item. Second, import the engine, because imports, the engines are not made by car manufacturer, except some, few Chryslers, Fords, and all those things. Normally, engines are imported from Japan, Korea, China, and all those things, where you get a cheaper engine almost at the half of the cost what you build in North America, because engine have so many components, and you might have heard about this before. And then, so import engine can be one. So in import engine, I might have another task below it saying import engine or select the best supplier. So whenever you basically try to import engines, I might review a couple of suppliers and check with him. Hey, I want this much cc of engine, this much gl of engine, this many pistons, this much bhp, and blah 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 thing. So these are all description of an engine or attributes of an engine, as we normally call in IT. Then second is build the corresponding frame. So the weight of engine is normally anything and beyond 1 ton. Now there should be a frame which to be balanced in terms of on the four wheels with the engine mounted on that frame. And if there's one driver, there are 5 people, the car shouldn't get toppled off. Okay, so for such scenario, what I normally do, I normally add such a requirement in my second item, saying ki make a frame or design a frame which can basically which can which can handle this engine, right? Or which can have this engine mounted on it, and which will not destable. Then I'll build the car body, or I'll import the car body, I'll assemble it, and so on and so forth. There could be many tasks here. Again, similarly of making tea or coffee, you can initiate your thought process here with a simple example like making tea or coffee, because I believe everybody make a tea or a coffee in the morning, right? Even if you don't,
Right.
please do think from a perspective of how could you get it done, right? or how your better half or your mother or whoever is giving you tea does it for you. So this basically will initiate a kind of WBS philosophy or a thought process to start getting into a level where we start the planning of a project solution support services. And that's how WBS is quite initial hands-on work a project manager does whenever he start accepting the knowledge from a BA team in the kickoff meeting. And that's how this is the first initial planning we do. That's why it's important to try it by yourself so that you can understand the process in depth. You can try whatever you like. You can try for even attendance management system also. But I want to give you a simplest example like making tea or coffee. Does that answer your question, ma'am?
Yes, sir, it does. One follow-up question though,
Please,
sir.
please go.
Um, so is it safe to say that every requirement in a real life example, work example, I mean, this is a simple task, so you can do it in one go. But let's say if it is a complex, I mean, basically there are multiple requirements. Is it safe to say that you take one requirement and every requirement will have WBS for it?
Rightly said, ma'am.
Uh, like
Very rightly said.
every work.
Uh-huh.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So third or fourth level work item, whatever we are talking about, as we just discussed, it should be maximum of 1 day planning. You normally don't spill your task for multiple days altogether, and that's a normal thumb rule. And that's why I took a, making tea or coffee. You don't do it for more than 15-20 minutes. If the task is longer, we normally break it up further. Like making a car. Making a car doesn't happen in a day because the
Right.
engines and everything should be handy. Even if it's handy, to mount an engine or a frame at least take 15 minutes for robots, and there are 6-7 robots. If you go to the Ford car manufacturing plant, you could clearly see there are around I think 12 odd robots were there who were mounting engine on a frame. It took a hell lot of what you can say precision. Otherwise, after you mount the engine, you need to do a hell lot of work in case if you're not mounted the engine correctly, because there are vibrations, weird sound, the engine getting imbalanced, the car getting, shaky car and all those things. So for each of these precision, processes work, we normally plan it out effectively in terms of how many time elements we should have, we should require for a given task. And you keep decomposing it to the last level where I know for this task I'll take so many minutes, so many hours. That's the idea behind WBS. That's how this is one of the most historical project management tool called work breakdown structure or activity breakdown structure or a task breakdown structure, as you might call it. And we as an American, we don't go into the word fights like that British I have just explained you, right? So for that, I normally show that video because we can understand how the management is done in different countries as well. And we need to understand that as well, right? So for that matter, please don't take it negatively. It's like, sharing the jokes, sharing the fun part of it as well. Okay? And this is how we learn how to
Thank
play
you,
it.
sir.
Yeah, most welcome, ma'am. No problem. Okay, so please do try to present it so that we can discuss. Again, there is no wrong or right here, but we are all learning together. Even I might learn from you whatever you could do better than me as well. And this is how the managements evolve, right? Okay, let me move on to the next slide. Here we are trying to control scope. Okay, should we carry for around 20 other minutes or should we stop here? Is it too much too much what you can say power for thoughts today, or should we continue?
I'm okay.
You okay for anything? Yeah. Oh, I have to leave. Okay, Rinta ma'am have to leave. Okay, no problem. Let's stop here. No problem there. Let's meet again day after tomorrow, and we'll understand the control scope. We'll understand the validate scope. We also validate, overall. These are the two processes remaining, and the WBS. Once you understand WBS, the next project knowledge area will be much easier for you. So please do try to create your WBS, and we'll understand what are the shortcomings and all those things. Okay, please do try and please do showcase. For showcasing you might have to work on your laptop, desktop, and please log in from the same scenario, or you just basically you can carry that image to your mobile as well, or you can send it to me on the WhatsApp group and I'll present it for you. Okay, but you need to explain your WBS, right? That's also another art of a project manager which we need to learn. Okay, chalo then let's stop here. let's meet day after tomorrow. I'm going to share the link of this video as well as some other WBS creation video where you can study this WBS creation in depth, and then you can go and create a WBS with pen and paper, Word, Excel, whatever you like, whatever you are comfortable with. Anybody have any question as of now?
Sir?
Go ahead, please. Yes, Josna, madam.
Yeah, I would like few minutes as this is my first session. I just want to understand few things, like very brief time, just barely 5 minutes, if you don't
Sure,
mind,
sure.
after the
No problem. No
meeting
problem.
ends.
Please go ahead, ma'am. Yeah, and everybody else, if
Thank
you
you.
want to be there, please. If you want to leave, you can leave as well. Whatever, it's comfortable for you. Please go ahead, ma'am.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to, as we spoke earlier in the session, I just wanted to make sure that I get the previous documents and the videos. You mentioned a couple of
Okay.
files,
Uh-huh.
and you said I can give you my email address on the WhatsApp, or basically to you. I'll send it personally, and then you will include me or send me those docs or access to the drive, right?
Sure, ma'am. Yes, yes. Could you see my Google screen here? I use dark background or dark theme as they call it.
Yes,
I'll go to Google Drive.
yes,
Come on. Yes, in Google Drive. Where is that? Pardon me. Okay, these are the this is the directory I'm going to share with you, and these are few previous recording which I believe I have uploaded it to the YouTube as well. No worries there. And then I'll take you to another MP3 audio files or something. Yeah, audiobooks. So in the audiobooks you have all these chapters, MP3s. So there's a chapter. We are doing it right now on project scope management, right? Scope management. So this is a chapter 5. So you can listen to this. It's hardly
okay.
20 MB or something. And if you don't like reading, if you like reading, please do read, because this recording is funny. It tries to read
Okay.
the letters in the diagrams as well. So sometimes it really,
Okay.
you might have done this thing. So I don't want to harp on that. So yeah, and another thing is basically shared with me. I'm going to share this knowledge base. Come on. Yeah, this is the knowledge base which I'm talking about. And here, if you go at the bottom, there are a couple of recordings here. Oh, come on. This is our current batch. Oh, there are only 2 sessions recorded here. Let me try to add other recordings. There are, I have added, I believe. Man, somebody was playing around this, or what? Oh man. Okay, let me work on this. This is our current session. But otherwise, if you go to the older
No
session,
problem.
you can go, see here, introduction. This is happen on such and such day. This is released to YouTube, and this is what it contains. This is what it contains, and all those things. So these are old recording. Normally here we had 51 total recordings here. Not 51, I believe 50, because there's a missing here. I don't know how this happened, but these things do happen in a real life. This is what we call knowledge base. So there, I believe, around 6-7 old batches recording as well. Okay. In the overview, we have
Yes. So
these are the help, videos which we normally talk about, and there are others as well. Let me, YouTube reference learning also. So like for Agile, Scrum, for estimation, risk management, we have these things. Then we have some, I need to add here a practice project like we talk about today, right? So I might add here in terms of WBS hands-on with making TEA TORCOFFE. Okay, there's no link to it. It's a can be wildly built DIAGRAM with pen PAPER MS Word, etc. Whatever you want to. So something like this. See, okay. So please,
okay.
share your email ID, and I'll share these links with you so that you can, access this thing whenever you want.
Okay, that sounds good, sir. So YouTube videos actually I have seen quite a bit. My only question was in the YouTube uploads, the in between videos that you showed, like today we saw for WBS, are not included. So how do I get hold
No,
of
these are
those
included here,
videos
man.
that you have
Wait a
shown
minute.
in the class?
These are included in YouTube links most probably. I don't know about today's video though, but yes, risk management. There's no, okay, this video is not in. Normally, what I do after session, I share these things. If you have particular video, most probably I have shared the link
Okay.
after our session. But if you don't know, please do ask me and I'll share that with you. Please don't worry, and I'll add up to here also. Like today's
Okay.
WBS, I'll add those links here. Okay.
Okay. Sounds good.
Cool.
Thank you. Thank
Cool.
you, sir.
Sure. Purni ma'am, do
Sir,
you
I
have any
have a
question?
question.
Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Sir, I have access to this knowledge spreadsheet that you are showing right now. But before that, you showed one folder wherein there were different recordings and the books. I do not have access to that.
Okay, could you please share your email ID and what needs,
Sure,
what are
sir.
the things I need to share with you? I'll do that. Don't worry. Oh, where the hell is my?
Okay, thank you, sir.
Most welcome. No problem. Anyone else have any question for me? Where is that, man? No, I'll do that. Okay, then let's stop here. Let's meet day after tomorrow, same time. Okay. Thank you. Thanks a lot for your time. Have a good night. Bye bye. Take care.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thanks a lot. Bye bye,
Thank you,
sir.
sir.
Bye bye, madam.
Thank you, sir.
Most welcome.